Revolutionary greetings. Haki Kweli Shakur coming at you today. Um, I'm about to make this real quick video. I want to touch on this topic that I've been doing a little research and I came across a lot of interesting stuff. So I just wanted to make this video about the human beginnings and the untold, suppressed history of the humans' beginnings on Earth and where they actually come from. I'm strictly going to deal with Homo sapiens. I'm not going to be dealing with the hominids or the Homo erectus because those were not fully, they wasn't human. They wasn't Homo sapiens. So I'm going to just start off with our history as far as talking about 100,000 to like 200,000, 300,000 years ago when the first Homo sapiens first, evolved into what we are today for as humans, in the region that they don't talk about and the information that you can present to debunk all the madness that some of these cats be coming up with as far as foreigners from different lands outside of Africa bringing stuff into the continent and trying to claim what's in the continent, which is the historic history of African people, and try to make it seem like it's foreigners that came into the land. But it's one area that we do not focus on. Kemet, Kush, and all that is great, but we need to find you need to deal with the origins before you get to Egypt, which is Kemet, Kush, which is Ethiopia and Sudan, and deal with the area that can help you debunk all the madness from these religious sects who try to claim that these other areas outside of Africa created civilization. That's what civilization originated and all this madness, which is not true. So you got to start with the origin. And I'm going to deal with this origin, which is South Central Africa. That is the human cradle of humankind. This is where your Homo sapiens, the original black man, the original black woman that we always quote, originated from. This is the areas that's not enough research is done on. And I think a lot of scholars need to start focusing on this area as far as South Central Africa, which is Central Africa, which is centered around the Great African Lakes region, which is the countries of ancient Burundi, Congo, Rwanda, Uganda, all these areas. Like, that's the focus point around the Great African Lakes region, because this is the area, I'm going to say from that area down to South Africa is where your Homo sapiens first appeared. The reason why I say that is because as I've been researching all these great stories, the mythological ones and the real stories, you know what I mean? All the origins of all these stories that you find in Egypt, Kush, foreign lands as far as Arabia, all the way to Asia, all the way into Europe, to the Americas. I'm talking about symbolism, I'm talking about creation stories, I'm talking about anything you can name of. I can show you and prove that all this stuff originated in Central Africa and South Africa is the beginnings where these great people came from and took this in the evolutionary process and took this into the regions up the east coast of Africa, the Nile River areas, up into Kush, into Kemet, and then took it out of Africa, which the Kushites took out towards Arabia and Asia, and the other areas out west to West Africa, to the Americas, to Europe, because Europe is the youngest, so I'm not even going to be focusing on Europe. But I've been doing a lot of research the last couple of days, and I just came across some wonderful references and some wonderful information and some wonderful pictures that I'm going to be posting on Instagram. My Instagram is at Haki_K_Shakur. that can help you see what I'm talking about in this video as far as South Central Africa being the human beginnings. I came across this research, and the cat name is Michael Tellinger, and I've been seeing a lot of his videos right lately, and I just be wondering why none of this stuff is getting talked about as far as South Africa. And because look here, if we focus on South Africa and Central Africa, it can easily debunk the madness that these other scholars who want to try to debate against Africa. This work, if you can just focus on Central Africa and South Africa in this region, you can kill them with ease with the nonsense they try to present, because everything is right there in Central Africa and South Africa. I done seen it. I've been doing it the last week or two. I've been just focusing on this region, man, and it's got some wonderful ancient ruins, ancient artifacts, the earliest rock art, cave art, even geometric symbolisms that they found on rocks. Oh man, the Blombos cave. It's just a whole lot that can easily debunk that madness quickly. The focus that I'm gonna be focused on is just called the Mzantsis, man. Like, Google that name. It's Mzantsi, the Mzantsi, man. This is the southern tip of Africa, and this is where I think our ancestors left the most ancient debunking archaeological findings. And they got this research center and all this stuff set up in this tip of Africa. It's called the Mzantsis, man. And the Mzantsis will debunk all that madness. Even, look, they even got it. And it's a lot of cats that always want to bring up Sumeria, Mesopotamia, and all these areas claiming that it's the oldest. But I done came across what this cat, Michael Tellinger, was talking about. In the Sumerian clay tablets, it definitely has information in the clay tablets that shows you that South Africa and Central Africa is the origins of civilization and humanity, man. It says it clear in the tablets the area, which is South Africa. Like, you can go research this, man, and look up the cat Michael Tellinger. It's just in the Sumeria text, it has a scripture, a verse in it that says, it's the land where the oldest landmass to where their ancestors came from, man. And it says in the text that this area is in South Africa. It's in the land that's stated before time. This is what the text says. It says it's the area where time was before time. South Africa is the region, and it says clearly South Africa. So you might want to research that also. This article I'm gonna be posting in the link under this YouTube video. It's called From Gondwana Land to Mzantsi Land: The Untold Human Origins and African History of African South Africans. And what's crazy about this, you don't hear nobody talking about this information except for like one or two Europeans. And these Europeans, like I always tell cats, man, you don't gotta mess with Europeans, but you got some Europeans, they're putting the facts out there in front of your eyes, and you should not ignore the information that they're putting out there, because they're actually putting the information out there and it's telling the truth, man. Like this cat, Michael Tellinger, man, from what I've been seeing the last couple of weeks, man, if you use this information, you will kill a lot of debates. I'm talking about on site. It ain't even no debate. Like, Central Africa and South Africa is it, man. Like, it gets no more historic than South Africa, man. And like, they have found fossils, bones, of Homo sapiens that's older than Lucy in Ethiopia. See, a lot of people think Ethiopia is the origin and place of humans' beginnings. Not true, man. Central or South Africa is the origin, man. Like, they have bones that are older than Lucy and older than Lucy's grandfather that they found not too long ago. And this Central Africa and South Africa region, man, they got like well over, from what I seen, they got like over 1,000 bones and skulls and archaeology evidence that can kill that mess, man. Like, it's ridiculous that this Mzantsi and all this is not being talked about, man. And they had great kingdoms. I found out it has Central Africa had kingdoms that's not being talked about, man. I can't really run down because I'm trying to make this video short and brief. It has a lot of kingdoms that's not being talked about, like the Sao. It's a couple of more kingdoms that's in that area, man, that they're not really being discussed, man. And let me go back to this Mzantsi. In the Mzantsi area of South Africa, man, they have symbolisms. Like, it's the land where they have like the oldest statue of a hawk-headed Horus, and they say this hawk-headed Horus goes back 260,000 years old. You know what I mean? It's dolerite birds, carving statues, and it's showing you that this hawk-headed deity that you see on the ancient walls and the ancient scripts and the ancient papyrus and the ancient mythological stories of that's in Egypt, Kush, and far east as Asia and Samaria. And this hawk-headed statue. It also has the oldest Sphinx. Like, I'm gonna post this photo on Instagram. It got like the oldest Sphinx looking carved statue, and this is in South Africa, man. This is telling you this is way before Egypt and Kemet, Kush, and Mesopotamia and Samaria, man. Like, dead in South Africa. It has the oldest petroglyph of the winged disc. And this is like near where I don't even like to get caught up in titles, but it's a Michael Tellinger and these other archaeologists came across this rock structure, ancient structure in South Africa, and it's like a calendar. It's called the Adams calendar. Don't get caught up in the name though, because a lot of people like to try to throw that Biblos, you know what I mean? They want to attach it to the Biblos, but it's called the Adams calendar, and it's your first like astronomical calendar tracking the sun and the stars. And it has like this old figure statue of this man. It's called the Stone Man, looking over the calendar, looking over the universe, and it's a stone man. Like, you can see how they carved it. It's like it's a man, but you can tell how old it is. It's like it's been kind of disfigured, but it's still, you can see that it's an ancient man. And in this area, it's the Adams calendar, and it has the Sphinx, and it's I'm gonna post it. You're gonna see what I'm talking about. And also in South Africa, it has these two pyramidic mounds that is not being talked about. Like, I'm gonna post that picture also. They don't really have a name for it, because like a lot of this information they're still studying, they're still trying to present it and bring it forth. It's if you see these pictures of these two mounds, they're clearly pyramids, man. And you can see where the design, the 360-degree designs of the pyramid come from. It had to come from, man, because like I tell people, like, civilization started in Central and South Africa, and they moved and migrated, which is called a Great Expansion. This is the name of it, where they migrated up out of Central Africa, South Africa, Central Africa, the Great Lakes African region, and migrated up that Nile Valley, Nile River area, and they took this stuff with them and took it all the way up into northern Africa, which is Kemet. you can see clearly in South Africa where the origins of all their stuff come from. And I'm gonna just run down some of the oldest stuff I done came across that can clearly debunk any madness, man. Like the Blombos Cave. In this Blombos Cave, man, they found the geometric rock, and this rock is commendate. Well, you can't commendate rocks, so they go by other techniques, which you can find on a lot of videos and Google and research this information. The geometric rock is dated 75,000 to 80,000 years ago. Like, ooh, come on, man. Like, man, come on. This is rock. This is rock, cave art, man. And it has geometric patterns on it. And you can see where the first geometry comes from, coming out of Southern Africa. Another debunker is the Botswana Python ritual site cave, man, where the first, because I know a lot of people be wondering, you notice that every ancient civilization has this serpent, this snake symbolism in their culture, where I can show you in Botswana where this comes from, and this is dated 77,000 years ago, man. Like, let me tell you something, Homo sapiens are only like 200,000 to 300,000 years old, and that's just like a figure that's just been thrown out there. You know what I mean? It's not. It might even be older than that. You see what I'm saying? Because, man, African people are it's the oldest people on Earth, man. And in this Python cave, you can see the serpent symbols, the snake, and how all that came up out of there and went up north in North Africa, man. Didn't come from outside of Africa. Then you got the Apollo stones in Namibia, Africa. This is in the area that's like right above the Great African Lakes region also. And in that area, they found the Apollo stones, where it's clearly cave art, man. And this cave art is at least about 26,000 years old. I just want to say that whole area, the Namibia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Swaziland, man, if we do more research in the areas, man, we can just kill all types of nonsense, man. The Sabudu cave, man. This cave is like 77,000 years old to 38,000 years old, man. And it's in the KwaZulu land, man, the Nate land. And this Sabudu cave is like, has some of the oldest carvings and ancient ruins in it, man. Like, you can actually see where the first humans came from, and like, this is just pure facts, and you can see it plain as day. Then you got this Shango bone, 20,000 years old. Then you got the Lebombo bone. This bone is at least 35,000 to 70,000 years old. All this is in the Central Africa, the South African region, man. Debunks anything that any cat want to present. And I think we just need to more focus on them areas instead of just focusing on Kemet all the time, man. Even West Africa, because these great people came up out of Central Africa, South Africa, went west, went east, and went north. So all the cultures that you're seeing that was sprung comes from Central and South Africa, man. And I want to say, like, they got some of the oldest peoples, like the San people, the Bushman, the Khoi, the Zulus, the Bantu, Twa, the Batwa people, the Pygmies, man, like, the Mzantsis, man, like, I'm telling you, get into the Mzantsis, man, like, they would kill anything that these cats trying to talk about as far as Samaria and all that nonsense, man. The Sumerian tablets telling you plain as day, their ancestors come from South Africa, man. The Mpu Matanga, like, it's like people don't realize, like, South Africa, when it was invaded by these Dutch people, the invaders, the Europeans, man, like, they own 87% of South Africa's land and its artifacts and all that. So you gotta sit there and ask yourself a question: why are these Europeans keeping this history suppressed? They're keeping this history suppressed because they want you to think that Europe is the landmass that humans originated from. So they're keeping this information on South Africa, the oldest history on Earth, suppressed, man. And it's financial and it's political, and they doing it on purpose. Like, this area got some of the first religious spirituality, rituals, astronomy, science, animals. Oh man, like, I even seen the great bull picture of the great bull that you see symbolized in ancient cultures all across North Africa and East Arabia into Asia, man. The Naga, all that is in South Africa. I can show you all this stuff, man. Like, it's really deep, man. And I just want y'all to look up that information. Like, the Mzantsis, man, some of the oldest. And I'm gonna just read this article real quick before I hop off. Gotta do your research, man, and straight up hit up. Like, let me say something about this. Like, the Adam and Eve stories and all the mythological stories are talking about African people, man. Like, the oldest woman that can be tracked back into that area comes from Central South Africa. Her bones, man, like, everybody, the DNA, mitochondrial DNA, comes from this one woman that birthed the first Homo sapiens, man. Comes from Central South Africa, man. This is before Lucy and all that, you know what I mean? Comes from this one great African woman, man. And where she from? Central Africa, South Africa, man. This from Dr. Albert Churchward, where he says the distinguished scholar, the anthropologist and archaeologist, theorizes that the earliest member of the human species appeared about 2 million years ago in the Great Lakes region of Central Africa. This early human species eventually spread over the entire continent. Many individuals in Dr. Churchward's field generally agree with his theory, include Dr. L.S.B. Leakey in 1963, found a primitive human fossil that's 1.2 million years old in East Africa. Further discussion on this theory was published in the Newsweek magazine January 11, 1988, and in the article called The Search for Adam and Eve, the subject was about a collection and testing of global assortments of genes. A trail of DNA was found to lead them to a single woman from whom we all descend. The evidence indicates Eve, that lived in the sub-Saharan Africa between 80,000 and 200,000 years ago. Her descendants began migrating from the original homeland inhabiting the whole world. The African ancestry of the human race is now generally accepted as fact. In 1988, findings of anthropologists Christopher B. Stringer and Peter Andrews of the British Museum confirmed the single origin theory that Homo sapiens had to evolve from African group 200,000 years ago, who had later migrated to Asia and Europe about 100,000 years later. Both scientists contend that fossil evidence supports their single origin theory. They also note that the oldest modern-looking human fossils from Western Europe are only 35,000 years old. The human skull remains 2.4 million years old were found in Kenya in 1965. This new date places the origin of humans being within the period of major climate change. A global cooling is already believed to have caused the other mammals to undergo dramatic evolutionary change. Geologist John Martin discovered the fossils while working in the Cimarron beds in Kenya's Great Rift Valley. That's another area that needs to be researched. Like, I done seen a gang of pictures of these structures, these ancient structures, and man, they are old. Trust me. As soon as you see them, you're going to be like, whoa. Like, ain't nothing in North Arabia, ain't nothing in Europe that's older than this. I'm telling you, the rocks. Like, another thing, man, like, some of the cats, you know, that's down with the RBG team that be debating these cats, like, man, they right on about the rocks, man. It's all about the rocks, man. Like, if you look at the rocks in Arabia and Europe, man, that shit don't compare to Central African, South African ruins and their rocks and shit, man. Trust me. He says the date of the skulls were determined using a scientific method called agron. These discoveries helped to validate the fact that mankind originated in Central Africa and South Africa. Humans born around the Great Lakes region, so very close to the equator, who have been very heavily pigmented, Kloger's law stated that the warm-blooded animals born in such an equatorial region as the Great Lakes, South Africa, and the Kenyan area would secrete a dark pigment called eumelanin, aka melanin. That's another thing, man. The Gondwana land. This area is composed of South Africa. It's doing like a theorized region where it's sectioned off, where it's from South America to South Africa is the equator line, all the way through Australia, where the Aborigines, where they migrated to, in the Aborigines, Australia. All this area that's right there, either on the equatorial line or under the equatorial line. And if you notice in that region, all these people are dark skinned, melanated beings, man. Like, and it makes sense because the climate is just right for things to evolve. Just like in the great John G. Jackson book, man. Like, the Great African Lake region is the perfect area, and I do believe, like most of these mythological stories in these ancient cultures, I really do think they're talking about the Great African Lakes region, because this landmass and this water is the perfect area for humans to evolve from, due to fish, which in the great John G. Jackson book, talking about where the first vertebrates, the first fish, the first kin of fish, because we all know that the fish and all these vertebrates were on Earth first. So in that region, it makes sense that's where they would evolve from, because if you look at, they can't evolve in no desert and no areas like in Arabia. They don't have no Great Lakes like this, man. Europe don't have no lakes like this, man. South America don't have no lakes like this. This Great Lakes region is the perfect area for humans to evolve from. And I'm not even gonna get into the universal theory. That's a whole nother video where I really think humans come from. You know what I mean? But as far as the evolution of humanity comes about in this Great Lakes region, man, in the equatorial region, because it's the perfect area, the perfect bubbling pot area for humanity to evolve from. Like, as they say, like, as above, so below. Like, all the great stories of the universe that these great African peoples in Kemet, Kush, Somalia, all these places in their mythological creation stories always talks about the Great Bang Theory and the Great Boom, and the nebulars and the explosions and all this type of stuff. And the primordial oceans is like one of the prime areas of creation stories. And I'm thinking that the great primeval and the great primordial oceans is the Great African Lakes region, man. Because if you look at this region, this area looks like an area that's possible from where comets could have hit that shit, man. You know what I mean? Like, if you study that whole area region, man, and I ain't even gonna get too much of it, I'm gonna say that for another video, but that area, man, just study that area, and you look at that area, man, most definitely that's where humans evolved from. But before I shut this video down, man, go research the Adams pyramids. It's these two pyramid mounds. They're not stone structures, they're mounds, man. So they're made out of grass and mountain terrain type area. So go research that. It's called the Adams Pyramid. The Adams Calendar, the oldest ancient structure, ruins on Earth, man. The Adams Calendar, trust me. Even when you look at the rocks, man, and look at the way this shit is sitting and the way it looks, you can see that this is, man, most definitely, like, this was some ancient shit, man. And research the Mzantsis, man, and the Mzantsi country on the tip of South Africa. Research the earliest known Sphinx, which is in South Africa. The Blumbo's Cave, the Shango Bone, the Lebombo Bone, the petroglyphs, winged disc, in South Africa, the Sabudu Caves, man, all that shit, the Python Cave, like, Go research all this shit, man. Let's get into Central and South Africa, man. Like, Central and South Africa is the debunker of all debates on anything far as humanity's origins, humanity's symbolism, astronomy, cave art, writing. Man, it's the, oh man, just go research this stuff, man. I just had to drop this video for y'all today, man. I'm gonna close off by saying, man, Inchi, Za, Mazinu, Makuku is the Great African Lakes region, man. Go research that shit. It's the origins of humanity, man. Don't nobody want to see that information, because that information gonna destroy a lot of weak cats theories, man. Man, Central South Africa, the origins and the beginnings of humans, man. I'm gonna sign off right here. Haki Kweli Shakur, the Cedar Carlos A. Cook, August 3rd Collective VA District. I'm out. 100.